Happy Saturday morning and welcome to the show. Finally, a chance for us to lick our wounds, pick up the pieces, take a deep breath after 3 weeks of intense drama ahead of some more drama. The NFL draft is starting on Thursday with the first round. The 49ers currently don't own a pick on Thursday in the first round, but anything can happen, as this guy up on the screen has shown us over the course of these past 3 weeks. It's been crazy. It's been the month of Deebo Samuel drama, and it's been a period of time that's featured so many mixed messages and so much confusion that I thought it'd be smart to sit down and just make a video summarizing what's happened so we could package this all up, put it all into context, and prepare for the NFL draft so we can understand the undercurrents here, so we can understand where the 49ers might go next and what might happen with Deebo Samuel moving forward. So the month of Deebo Samuel drama, it began in April, at the very start of it, the great Instagram purge. You probably remember when all these rumblings were going on. Well, this is Deebo Samuel's page now. And you don't see much 49ers gear, do you? In fact, I think there's only one picture right there, the one right in the middle that's really showing up. It was funny to me because he has a Los Angeles Dodgers hat on. It's a custom Los Angeles Dodgers hat. And this one picture on the left that may or may not expand quickly for us. And it's way more prominent than any of the 49ers gear on his page. So, okay, that happened. It also happened for A.J. Brown, who maybe not coincidentally has the same agent, Tory Dandy, as Deebo Samuel. So maybe a new way of negotiating, try to turn the fan base onto your side or against ownership. I really don't understand the rhyme or reason behind any of it. The 49ers still have Deebo Samuel under contract. It didn't seem like a very mature way. It was an awfully passive-aggressive way of showing displeasure. I suppose that in this age of social media, there is brand power online. A message can be sent through Instagram that demonstrates an athlete's brand power, or at least showcases some of that, and can be somehow leveraged to increase the urgency of negotiations, but whatever. That was on April 1st. Then on April 11th, we got a much more clear message. This was from Ricardo Young, who's Deebo Samuel's friend. He posted on Instagram with the caption, "If it ain't 25 million a year, we don't want it." This was the post. And we could scroll up here so you could see on the right. If it ain't 25 million a year, we don't want it. That happened on April 11th, so less than 2 weeks ago. And that was our first firm indication of what Deebo Samuel wanted contractually. Ricardo Young and Deebo Samuel, if you look at any social media page, are obviously close. So Deebo Samuel also endorsed that post. He liked it. He commented on it. It's safe to say that Deebo Samuel agrees with the sentiment, or at least agreed on April 11th, of if it ain't 25 million a year, we don't want it. So we had a firm monetary undertone to what was going on in the potential contract extension negotiations of Deebo Samuel. Fast forward 4 days, on April 15th, Deebo Samuel reported that he received death threats from fans. Now, that was terrible. He said there was some racial stuff, some death threats. He said that on a live video, and obviously that was roundly condemned, as it should have been. And it was a sign that things, might be getting personal, not necessarily between Deebo Samuel and the 49ers. We don't have access to what has been said behind closed doors. Tory Dandy, Deebo Samuel, the 49ers, Parag Marathe, whoever is in those negotiations. But at least on social media, the vitriol was pouring out. So what you had was a situation where a lot of this drama started on social media, then it escalated on social media, and now you just have stuff flying everywhere with the latest report on April 15th. On April 19th, they got even crazier on social media. Deebo's brother started making waves on Facebook, saying that in some comment section that he would be requesting a trade from the 49ers. And the very next day, after a whole hailstorm of that and some quasi denials and some other Instagram stories. I mean, it's all been too confusing to keep track of. That's why I'm making this video. The day after that, Deebo Samuel told the media, ESPN's Jeff Darlington, that he had formally requested a trade from the 49ers. And then subsequent reports indicated that the 49ers had actually known about this trade request for a week. So do the math here, April 20th, if they'd known about it for about a week, that takes you back about to the time of, if it ain't 25 million a year, we don't want it. So we do just a little bit of detective work. It seems that the trade request can be completely, definitively tied to money. However, on the date of the trade request, there were other leaks that suggested that it wasn't about money. We got a ton of mixed messages, which has been a theme of this entire month. We got the statement that it was about money, obviously on April 11th, 25 million. We got the subsequent April 20th statements that it was about usage, that Deebo Samuel didn't want to be a running back. We got wild speculation in all kinds of directions, including the fact that Deebo Samuel didn't want to be in California. And then people start talking about California income tax and Deebo Samuel wanting to be back in South Carolina and all this and all that. We've gotten hearsay, even from the top national reporters who are always couching whatever they say with, to my understanding or to knowledge, which to me is just a dog whistle of sorts for I'm guessing right now. And we've gotten deleted tweets in every single direction of Deebo Samuel coming out saying that he wants to clear something up, that only Deebo Samuel, his agent, and the 49ers, speaking about himself, obviously in the third person, know what's going on. That's been up for a couple hours. Then that's been deleted. There have been Instagram stories that have been posted that have been deleted. It's been mixed messages galore. It has not been a rational situation, at least from the outside looking in. Throughout all the noise, I'll say this. If rational heads prevail, Deebo Samuel will re-sign with the 49ers on a lucrative deal, because Deebo Samuel needs the 49ers and the 49ers need Deebo Samuel. I've said this so many times throughout the course of this month, but you could look at this piece that I wrote for The Athletic. And we're not logged in right now, so I'll log in a second. But you could see the piece that I wrote for The Athletic up on the screen. Deebo Samuel made the 49ers over 4 times as efficient offensively when he was on the field. Now, okay, we don't have to credit that all to Deebo Samuel, but there obviously is a correlation between their offensive effectiveness, especially during this massive year that he had in 2021, and Deebo Samuel and what he brought to the table, his versatility. The 49ers obviously need him from a tone-setting perspective, from a adaptability perspective on the offensive end of the football. They needed him in such unique ways, in such uniquely multiple ways. Obviously, he was a very efficient receiver, and he began the year gangbusters on that front. At the end of when all the dust had settled, Deebo Samuel ranked second behind only Cooper Kupp in yards per route run. So even when you considered the full breadth of things, even when the catch production started slowing down because he was in the backfield, Deebo Samuel still remained a very efficient receiver. And he did so through a very unique path. He might have dropped a lot of passes. Yes, 12 drops led to NFL, but Deebo Samuel also set NFL history by averaging nearly 11 yards per catch, 11 yards after the catch per reception. Just wrap your head around that. Every single time that Deebo Samuel caught the ball this past season, he averaged an additional 11 yards after it initially hit his hands and he corralled it. Nobody had ever come close to that figure. In fact, Deebo Samuel's led the NFL in all 3 of his seasons, 2019, 2020, and 2021, in that regard. So while he may not be your prototypical X wide receiver like Davante Adams or somebody who has glue for hands, who's catching everything like a vacuum that's coming toward him, Deebo Samuel is just as efficient, even more efficient, in fact, than Davante Adams, second only to Cooper Kupp as a wideout, because he does it by just absolutely trucking people. He's a dog out on that field. And that, in turn, has been very valuable for the 49ers because it has set a tone for the football team in a physical regard. He knocks out mouth guards. He is obviously one of the Yak Bros. He is helping Kyle Shanahan zag while the rest of the league is zigging. The league has, in general, seen a decline in tackling ability, especially from defensive backs. Well, you throw a linebacker-sized body like Deebo Samuel out there, and those defensive backs have a lot of trouble tackling him. And that has carried over to the whole 49ers team. It's become part of their DNA in 2021. It wasn't an accident that Deebo Samuel led the 49ers out onto the field along with Trent Williams to Super Gremlin with that boom box. And that obviously took hold big time. It went viral during the playoffs. I still remember when I got that video standing there in the tunnel at Dallas. Deebo Samuel, Trent Williams came out, and it became a phenomenon. On top of all this, the 49ers, plain and simple, needed a running back when all their running backs started getting hurt. And it was Deebo Samuel, who was one of the most efficient running backs in football. That was that glue piece for them. This offense for Kyle Shanahan doesn't work without a good back. And when they're all hurt, then Deebo Samuel did that. So Deebo Samuel does need the 49ers, but as I've just illustrated over the past couple minutes, the 49ers absolutely need Deebo Samuel. So that's what I'm saying. If rational heads prevail, Deebo will re-sign with the 49ers. But the 49ers also likely have a limit on the amount of drama that they can endure. The thing is, that limit is very, very high because Deebo is such a great player and he was a great leader in 2021 and he's under contract through 2022. So the 49ers are sitting here with leverage. So when we talk about what's next, well, I went through the whole calendar of what's happened in April. What's next is April 28th, and that's the first day of the NFL draft. And as I mentioned at the top, the 49ers don't have any picks in the first round of this draft, but they could have picks in the first round of this draft if they traded Deebo Samuel. So in a way, our next inflection point is obviously April 28th, that first day of the NFL draft. If the 49ers want to get back in the first round, it's almost guaranteed based on what Deebo Samuel put on tape this past season that they can get back in the first round if they do deal him before then. But as I said, the limit for how much the 49ers can tolerate here, the limit for how far they're willing to play hardball is a high one because Deebo is such a great player because the 49ers have needed him so badly. They need him even more now with Trey Lance set to take over as the quarterback. You don't want to take away the most versatile, best offensive weapon when your prized number 3 pick is entering a second year and is presumed to be taking over the starting quarterback role. So it's a situation where the 49ers can dangle Deebo Samuel out there and say, hey, pay us a king's ransom, right? That's what Josina Anderson reported the other day would be the 49ers demand. And that makes absolute sense. Over 4x efficiency with Deebo Samuel on the field versus when he was off of it. So tell teams they better come with 2 first-rounders. Tell them they better come with a Tyreek Hill-like package, the one that Miami sent Kansas City for the speedy wide receiver. And if somebody bites, well, there you have it. Then the trade value or the trade return exceeds what Deebo might be worth to you as the 49ers. But until then, if it doesn't exceed that, then you can sit back and say, well, the limit of the drama that we can put up with this offseason is very high if we're the 49ers. So that summarizes the month of Deebo Samuel drama. We're going to wait for the NFL draft now to see what actually is going to happen next. When I talk about rationality versus irrationality, it's just so hard to know what exactly is going on behind the scenes when the messages are so mixed on the surface. At this point, because of the mixed messages on the surface, we're getting so much misinformation like, oh, Deebo Samuel is just a big Jimmy Garoppolo fan. He's upset with how that all went down. He doesn't want to play with Trey Lance. Well, you could just go to Deebo Samuel's Instagram if people are so intent on looking at his social media for clues. He's posting stuff, or he was with Trey Lance at the start of this past season. I mean, I can't even believe I'm going down this rabbit hole right now. But just to debunk one of the many ridiculous things coming out there, there's zero evidence that Deebo Samuel has a problem potentially playing with Trey Lance. But what happens in these kind of information black holes where you just have a bunch of misinformation or a bunch of conflicting messages is that people will start to speculate. And they'll start to speculate that Deebo doesn't like Trey Lance. Deebo hates California. I mean, yeah, Deebo probably doesn't want to pay those California taxes. There might be ways around that if the 49ers give him a lucrative extension, by the way. I think Mookie Betts, when he signed the $65 million signing bonus with the Dodgers as part of a much larger deal, Mookie Betts lives in Tennessee, no state income tax, because the signing bonus is not part of paragraph 5 salary or whatever the equivalent would be in MLB. Certain language can probably make it exempt from state income tax. So maybe the 49ers can give Deebo Samuel a massive signing bonus and try to circumvent the state income tax. I don't know. I'm not an accountant. Just something that I saw online could be a possibility. I know we just finished our taxes. So maybe at this point of the year, there is extra sensitivity to that California tax issue. Nobody knows. Again, let's couch speculation with the acknowledgement that it is speculation, because there's so much of it going around right now that we ended up having off the wall takes like Deebo Samuel doesn't have Trey Lance. And the best I can do in response to something like that is roll my eyes. I will say that, yes, there are arguments on all sides of this. Now that, the cat's out of the bag and Deebo Samuel has requested a trade, even if it is just the doing of his agent, Tory Dandy, even if this is just a shakedown, a money play against the 49ers, trying to force them up against the deadline pressure of the draft in case they want that first round pick. There are, I don't want to say they're legitimate or illegitimate, but there are arguments on all sides of this. Deebo Samuel's trade value right now, coming off the first season in NFL history that saw somebody amass 1,500 receiving yards and 500 rushing yards, is at an all-time high. It's never been higher. So maybe a team like the Jets would be willing to absolutely splurge. And maybe because of that, the 49ers could theoretically think they can field a better roster with the draft capital in return that they get from Deebo Samuel if they pick correctly. But as we have already seen with the 49ers and DeForest Buckner, and I'm not saying this was a bad move, but I'm illustrating the difficulty of delivering plug-and-play replacements for great players. And Javon Kinlaw has obviously, at least to this point, not been a one-to-one swap for DeForest Buckner. Now, the 49ers, yes, they needed to save that cap space. There are many reasons why they made that move. But the move in the public perception would obviously look a lot better if Javon Kinlaw had at least approximated DeForest Buckner's level of production to this point. Injuries so far have made that an impossibility. We'll see what happens this next season. In the case of Deebo Samuel, nobody has ever racked up 1,500 receiving yards and 500 rushing yards in a single season except for Deebo. So it won't be as simple as, trade Deebo, draft another receiver. You can't clone the guy. There's only one of them. And I mean, it's a situation where he's such a unique talent that's so uniquely tailored to Kyle Shanahan's desire to run a positionless skill position offense, or at least have elements of that for matchup purposes, that I see his values of the 49ers as being higher to almost anybody else. But you look at the Jets, and the Jets might have a similar desire for the same kind of player. And that is one of the advantages or disadvantages, depending on the way that you look at it, of having a 49ers East, of having the 49ers coaching staff, a good chunk of it, go out and take over the Jets. And they probably really covet Deebo Samuel. So we'll see what happens on that front. But again, arguments on all sides. I get it. Emotions on all sides. I get it. Some people want to jettison Deebo Samuel because they don't like that. They feel that, his way of asking for a pay raise here has been disloyal to the 49ers up until he actually confirmed that he had requested the trade. It was, in my opinion, hard to blame him too much for anything that he was doing. These guys want attention. They're professional athletes. As long as you're negotiating in good faith behind the scenes, I think it's hard for anybody on the outside to be upset. I understand, though, now that he's requested the trade, I think, sports fans are a lot about loyalty. Sports fans want, players who are under contract with their team to honor that contract, and sports fans will be upset if they don't. So I understand the negative feelings in that direction, but I also want to emphasize how important Deebo Samuel has been. It's a complicated issue, especially when we don't have access to all the facts when the information is flowing in copious amounts from so many different angles, so many contradictions, usage, money, state taxes. I mean, so many things all through social media, which is probably the most toxic place possible to resolve some of these issues. I will say that the great quandary with Deebo Samuel, and I wrote this the other day, is that versatility has made Deebo Samuel uber valuable. So won't any team that potentially pays for him want that same versatility? So I mean, and this just comes from the usage reports, and we can't be sure if they're legitimate or not. But if Deebo Samuel is, or his agent, because it seems that Deebo Samuel was selling wide back T-shirts and was so proud of the wide back term and the position that he essentially coined a few months ago. All of a sudden, if Deebo Samuel's upset about that, it's funny to me because he obviously was on the other side of the fence not too long ago. But the bottom line to me is that the versatility that's at play here, that is the essence of Deebo Samuel, the superstar at the NFL level. And some of these mixed messages are implying that Deebo Samuel wants to cut back on that versatility, yet still also make a whole lot of money moving forward. And to me, that's the great catch-22, or the catch-19, if you will, of this whole situation. Anyway, it's been a fun month of Deebo Samuel drama, hasn't it? I'm sure you're all sick of it. Well, I think that you might have at least some progress toward a resolution, or at least some more knowledge regarding when a resolution might come late next Thursday after the first round of the NFL draft. Until then, subscribe to the channel, follow along. Maybe I answer a question, maybe I don't. I haven't been looking at the questions, but it's Saturday today, and that means that we need a little bit of time off. All right, guys, take care. Have a good day. We'll see you soon. Subscribe to the channel. Have a great Saturday.